G'day and welcome to Earn the Right. My name is Trevor Young, and Earn the Right is your audio platform for reputation-based authority building, PR, personal branding, and turning credibility into recognition and recognition into opportunity. Very multifaceted topic, and we cover many of those facets on this show across 4 different tracks. Now, today's track is called In the Arena, and that's when I have a riff around a particular topic that I feel is noteworthy and I've sort of done a bit of deep diving on. So let's get into today's topic, which is why personal branding has a reputation problem. Now, why is it that some people manage to build large online followings but cannot sustain the hype and buzz over time? It's because they've got things arse about. That's a technical term. They've invested heavily in their personal brand before building the reputation to support it. And eventually, the gap between the two become impossible to ignore. Now, I've spent decades working in PR and communications, and I'm also a very, very keen observer of the creator economy and what's going on in that space. Now, I see this pattern play out all the time, but in different industries and different contexts. Now, what am I talking about? Someone builds an impressive public presence. They got the visibility, the followers, the speaking gigs, the buzz. But unfortunately, there's not much underneath to validate the hype. A dissatisfied customer goes public on Reddit. A promised result doesn't materialise. A speaking gig attracts criticism. A podcast interview is shallow and turgid. A long-form article falls flat because it contains little original thinking. We've all seen it. Eventually, the whole reputational structure, or lack thereof, collapses under the stress. Now, meanwhile, there are other professionals and entrepreneurs with more modest visibility and followings, but they happen to be able to build enduring influence that compounds over time. Now, the difference between the two isn't talent or luck. It's their understanding what personal brand actually is, what it can and cannot do, and what needs to exist before it's worth investing in at all. Now, if you scroll through LinkedIn at any stage, you'll find endless advice on personal branding, talking about optimizing your headline, posting consistently, finding your niche, build your audience. There's an entire advice industry built around helping entrepreneurs and professionals position themselves, craft their narrative, and amplify their visibility. Now, none of this is wrong necessarily. Okay, a fair bit of it is pretty meh, I will say that. But it only tells part of the story. The personal branding conversation has become so dominant that we've forgotten the other half of the equation, the part that actually determines whether your business or career is built on bedrock or quicksand. We've conflated getting noticed with building credibility. We've mistaken visibility for trust. And the result is a whole generation of professionals who are exceptionally good at looking impressive, but surprisingly bad at being impressive. They know how to craft the perfect LinkedIn post, but struggle to maintain client relationships. They can grow a decent following by gaming the algorithm, but can't build a track record that justifies it. They can produce YouTube videos that attract heaps of attention, but hit the wall in terms of taking their thinking and their audience to the next level. Yes, they have a personal brand. What they don't have is a rock-solid reputation. Now, these are 2 forces at play here. A lot of people think reputation and personal brand are the same thing, and they use them interchangeably. And hey, I've been guilty of doing this in the past. I've done it a lot. You may have too. So let's break it down because the nuances matter. Reputation is the story others tell about you based on your accumulated actions over time. It's not something you fully control. It's influenced by how people interpret what they see from you again and again and again. Put another way, reputation is built from the evidence trail you leave, how you treat people when there's nothing to gain, whether you deliver on commitments, how you handle mistakes, what you do when integrity costs you something. These patterns, repeated over months and years, create the composite picture others hold of your character and your competence. You shape reputation through consistent behaviour. It lives in other people's memories and interpretations, their experience of working with you, what they've witnessed firsthand, what they've heard from others that they trust. You can't manage it like a brand. You can only influence by showing up with excellence and integrity so reliably that the evidence becomes undeniable. Your personal brand, on the other hand, is how you want to be known, the specific value and identity you're claiming in the marketplace. It's the deliberate impression you're building. For example, the designer who makes complex ideas accessible, the entrepreneur who ships fast without breaking things, the strategist who asks uncomfortable questions. You get the drift. Personal branding is the strategic work of communicating that identity, curating your public presence, choosing what to amplify, deciding how to position yourself differently than others. You control this narrative directly because you're actively managing the message before anyone works with you. Now, of course, if there's any disconnect, the hype doesn't match the substance, well, that's when things get a little murky, and that's when things can lead to distrust. Put another way, think of reputation as the sturdy foundation of a building, constructed over time and tested by weather and stress. Personal brand is the intentional architecture and design, the features and aesthetic that attract the right people to that building. It isn't inherently shallow, it only becomes a problem when it's used to compensate for a weak and shaky reputation. Now let's talk about why the gap kills you. Here's where most professionals get it backwards. They invest heavily in personal brand, but disregard the very thing that's required to support it, reputation. This creates what I call the substance signal inversion. This is where your marketing sophistication outruns your actual track record. You look impressive on paper, but there's little in the way of substance underneath. Increasingly, modern audiences detect this mismatch very, very quickly. They've been burned too many times by polished profiles that could not deliver. The good news is a strong personal brand can enhance a good reputation. When you consistently and authentically showcase genuine expertise and positive attributes, it reinforces what people who are already working with you, what they experience. But a poor reputation will undermine even the most sophisticated personal brand. No amount of strategic positioning can compensate for broken promises, shoddy work, or ethical failures. The gap between what you claim and what you deliver becomes obvious and often public. This is why the hucksters and the wannabes eventually get found out. Without reputation to back it up, the whole structure eventually collapses. Reputation endures because it's built on evidence that multiple people can verify. Personal brand alone is just marketing, and everyone knows marketing can lie. Legendary investor Warren Buffett put it perfectly when he said, "It takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. If you think about that, you'll do things differently." Absolutely. The order that matters: professional reputation first. The sustainable approach requires a different order of operations. First, build reputation through relentless competence. Do exceptional work. Solve problems that matter. Keep your word, especially when it's inconvenient. Show up consistently over months and years. This creates the foundation, the underlying reality that can withstand scrutiny. Managing one's reputation can take various forms. For example, delivering work that exceeds expectations, especially early in relationships when people are still forming that impression or their impression of you. Investing in relationships without immediately getting any reciprocity, not expecting anything in return, like making introductions, offering help before you need something, remembering what matters to people. Communicating transparently by being honest about challenges and mistakes, sharing context openly, giving credit generously, not spinning failures. How many business leaders do we say fail on this front? Honouring commitments religiously, even the small ones that no one would notice if you skipped. These aren't tactics, they're actual behaviours that cause people to trust you, remember you positively, and vouch for you when your name comes up. Earned authority is the powerful sweet spot. But reputation isn't only built behind closed doors. There's a category of activity that sits between doing great work and broadcasting your personal brand. Actions that create external evidence of your expertise without being self-promotional in nature. Think of the sweet spot between, if you had a Venn diagram, professional reputation on one side, personal reputation on the other. In the middle, we've got what I call earned authority. Now, this includes third-party validation, being quoted in industry publications, cited by peers, invited onto podcasts rather than pitching yourself. Contribution to your field, writing that advances thinking rather than recycles it, mentoring others, serving on committees where the work matters more than the visibility. Showing up in rooms you don't control, hallway conversations at conferences, how you behave on someone else's podcast, what you say when you're not holding the microphone. These aren't personal branding activities, but they're not invisible either. They're visible demonstrations of substance. They're proof points that others create or validate on your behalf. And this is where PR and communications comes into play. Not as spin, but as the strategic effort to ensure your reputation has a chance to reach people who haven't worked with you directly. And then we look about how can we leverage through personal brand. This is when we use our personal branding efforts to amplify that reputation. Once you have genuine expertise and real results backing you up, strategic communications helps you reach more of the right people and articulate your value clearly. Your personal brand becomes a true reflection of your reputation, not fiction about your aspirations. This means sharing your authentic perspective on industry problems, not generic advice that everyone else is recycling. It means documenting your actual work and learning process transparently, not just highlighting the wins. It means being consistent in communication style and values across platforms. People should recognise your voice and principles wherever they encounter you. And it means focusing on usefulness to your ideal audience rather than impressiveness to everyone. Here's the kicker. If your reputation supports your personal brand, then your personal brand communications will reinforce and enhance your reputation, and your reputation will add weight and gravitas to your personal branding efforts. I call this a win-win situation. What we're talking about here is the long game. Longevity and sustainability is key. Being in it for the long haul. Purposefully meshing brand and reputation ongoing for the benefit of your business or your career. Remember, personal brand gets you noticed. It opens doors, creates opportunities, and helps the right people discover your work. In a crowded market, visibility matters. If you're genuinely excellent but nobody knows you exist, then your impact remains limited. But then reputation keeps you there. It's what converts initial interest into compounding and lasting relationships. It's why clients become advocates, why opportunities will compound over time, and why your business or career becomes more sustainable rather than fragile as it grows. When reputation validates your personal brand, you occupy a powerful position. What you say about yourself aligns with what others experience and report. Let me say that again. What you say about yourself aligns with what others experience and report. This congruence creates credibility that's nearly impossible to fake. And this in turn fosters trust, which is perhaps the rarest commodities of today. Are you ready to get serious? If you've been in the professional trenches for decades, you already have a reputation. The question you need to ask yourself is whether it's strong enough to support the personal brand you're about to proactively build. Many entrepreneurs and professionals who have executed on personal branding sporadically decide at some point to get serious about it. More consistent content, clearer positioning, greater visibility. That's the right instinct. But before you turn up the volume, take an honest look at the foundation. Are there holes in your reputation that need fixing? Relationships you've left drift? Commitments you didn't honour? Work that wasn't your best? These things have a way of surfacing precisely when your visibility increases. So you need to be working on these two things hand in hand. It's not either or, by the way. You don't pause personal branding until your reputation is perfect, because you'll probably never get anything done. But you do need to pay attention to both, reinforcing the foundation even as you build the bridge. Put as much time into your reputation as you do your personal brand. When the foundation is solid, the brand works harder. I'm Trevor Young. Thank you for listening.